a lot of us had the experience a few years ago in Cannes of going into a late night press screening of a movie called Distant and feeling like we had discovered a really important new voice in world cinema, and then after that going back and finding that this filmmaker had made 2 previous films and a very good short film, and of course seeing his work since then, which has collectively won 2 grand jury prizes in Cannes and the Best Director prize, and some of you will be seeing his latest movie in a couple of hours, Once Upon a Time in Anatolia. It's my great pleasure to welcome here Nuri Bilge Ceylan. Since people have not seen the film yet, Nuri, I thought we can kind of go. This is a movie that's to a certain extent about driving and a long journey over land. So I think maybe we can go on a little bit of a journey through your films and your life leading up to the movie people are going to see this afternoon. And I thought one place to start actually would be to ask you what your earliest memories of movies are when you were a child growing up in Turkey.
Of course, my childhood was in a small town. Actually, I was born in Istanbul, in a big city, but in 2 years old, when I was 2 years old, we moved to a small town. But of course, those were the days. There was no internet, there was no videos, there was no anything. There was even a restricted amount of electricity in our town. There was a huge generator who produced electricity, and at a certain time they used to close it. But there was cinema. The cinema was the most important and influential thing in everybody's life, I think. And in those days, the Turkish movies there was lots of Turkish movies. They used to produce 200 a year or something. Most of them was maybe inspired by the Hollywood movies, but people used to watch mostly Turkish movies. And we used to live, how to live, what to be in life from the movies. They were very important in our lives. And there was 1 or 2 theaters in the small town. And the movies used to change every day. So every day we used to go cinema. But of course, in those days, I never thought being a director, but I was really influenced by we used to be like the characters we watch, you know. Yes.
And did you just see Turkish movies in those theaters, or occasionally were there films from America or from other countries shown?
Yeah, mostly Turkish movies, but of course there was other movies. But we used to prefer Turkish movies because they are inspired from the Hollywood movies,
right,
but they transfer it to more Turkish feeling and in the form that we could understand better, you know.
Quite directly inspired in many cases, right? Because I've seen over the years in video stores things like Turkish Star Wars, Turkish Exorcist.
Yes. But also there were, of course, these are the most extreme examples, but there were definitely better movies also. They are mostly melodramas, and that was the form which is also suitable to Turkish culture. Actually, they still like melodramas a lot, you know. That's Eastern culture, I think it's more close to melodrama. Actually, except cinema, there was not much art around us when we were a child. But so I never imagined to be an artist when I grew up. But I think after when I started study in the university, somehow in third year, for instance, I begin to understood that I'm not the right person to be an engineer. Of course, since I was 15 years old, I used to practice photography as well, but as an art, really, black and white, not like memory pictures. But it was much later that I wanted to be a filmmaker. Because in those days there were no video cameras, so it seemed very difficult to be a filmmaker. Because it was in the hands of very specific people in the industry, and it seemed a very far away dream. So I never thought of being a filmmaker. It was much later that some coincidences and
well, you had quite a few, I guess we could call them sort of years in the wilderness, where you were sort of searching for yourself or what would make you happy in life. And I know you were at one point in London, and at one point you were, I think, in the Himalayas somewhere. Can you talk about that period and how that did ultimately, end with you becoming a filmmaker?
Actually, when I was in the university, the life was easy. But when I finished it, the life became suddenly very difficult because I had to decide. And that's the most difficult thing, I think. And I had to decide what to do in life. I sensed that, I felt that I don't want to work as an engineer. So, but what else can I do? So to understand my feelings better, I began traveling. And at the same time, I was thinking what to do in life. So in these travels, first I went to the West. I went to London first, worked as a waiter, and then I came to New York as well. I stayed here for several months also. I went to the cinematheques and but at the same time I was watching movies all the time. At some point I felt that the answer is not in the West. So I turned my direction to the east this time. And I went to India, I went to Himalayas, I walked in the mountains, but at the same time I was thinking all the time, very deeply, what shall I do in life? Because I was a melancholic person, everything was boring me and things like that. Nothing seemed to me meaningful, this type of things. But in that trips, when I was walking in the Himalayas, I was sitting on one temple and looking at the mountains. I suddenly felt I missed Turkey a lot, and I decided to go back to my country and go to the military service. But that was a very good idea because I didn't have to decide, because that's something obligation, and obligation is something good, sometimes, because you don't have to decide. But it's the military service that was useful for me, I think, most, because in that time I read a lot of books, but at the same time trying to find an answer what to do in life. And during that time I decided to be a filmmaker, actually. I came across with one of the books of Roman Polanski, autobiography, called Roman. When I read this book, I thought filmmaking could be good for my personality. Because, in a kind of art, it's an endless voyage. So it's also always, it's not static, it's dynamic thing, and with every film you live a new life. The life of Roman Polanski starting from zero, from the camps, and he went up to the Hollywood, and that life also inspires you, in a way, motivates you. That started me to make something. And I suddenly started to read books about cinema only. And I educated myself.
It's a wonderful film, and people can see it on at least on the British DVD of Distant. I don't know if it's also on the American one, but it's I think about 17 or 18 minutes, and it's a portrait of a marriage to an extent, like several of your later films, with no dialogue. How did you come up with the idea for that film and decide to use your own parents as the stars of the film?
Actually, Cocoon, Koza, is a 20-minute film, and it's definitely my most difficult film because I didn't know anything. It took me about a year to shoot this because I didn't have a script. I was taking my camera, very bad one, and go to my childhood town. I shoot something, I go back to Istanbul, I go again, I shoot something, but there was no script at all, and I tried to create a script at the same time. But starting something is the most difficult part, I think. When you start, then you devise something more easily. My second film was much easier, of course. But still, in spite, I also, after engineering, studied 2 years on cinema, in cinematography. This short film taught me much more than anything. Making mistakes is the best teacher, I think.
Well, even with the mistakes, the film was accepted into competition in Cannes, in the short film competition. How important of a moment was that for you? Did that give you a sense of legitimacy as a filmmaker? Did you feel like you had finally really found this thing you had been seeking? Not that it's just that you had made the film, but that people wanted to show the film at such a prestigious event.
Yeah, it was really a big surprise for me when it's accepted the Cannes Film Festival. The film was 20 minutes, 21 minutes originally, but the Cannes didn't accept films longer than 15 minutes in the short film. So before I sent it, I just cut one part. So the film was something strange, you know. Because I directly cut the print, the output, I didn't edit it. But when they still select the film to a competition, it was a bigger surprise for me. But still, it motivates me. So with the same method, which we shot the Koza just 2 person, myself using camera and a focus puller. With the same method, I shot my first feature film. I used the camera, a person is making and the local people is acting, including my parents, some of my relatives, some students in the small town. That was like that, but it was much easier in spite of its longer movie.
When you see your first feature, The Small Town, it opens very early on at the scene in a classroom, and just watching the kids is marvelous, and they all seem very unaware of the camera, very unaware of being in a movie, and likewise the adult actors in the film have a similar natural quality about them, even though many of them have never been in front of the camera before. Is that actually a benefit to working with people who've never been in front of the camera before?
Sometimes. It depends on the project, of course. It depends on what you want to do. But I started working with the amateurs because I was afraid of many things. So I didn't want to deal with professionals because I was afraid of them. Also, I thought what I will do is doesn't mean anything, and so I don't want to involve with many people that I would feel ashamed maybe later. So I wanted, nobody knows about it. So I want to, if I don't like it, I could throw it away. So I did it in the family, also the people with nobody is from the industry. But when I shoot my first movie, I felt some potential and I liked working in this way. And but in my first movie, it was not shot with the location sound because the camera was not suitable for that. We had to dupe it. I thought if I shoot the location sound with the amateurs, there are a lot of possibilities, or what do you say? One can create something special, something new. I felt this kind of potential, and I wanted to try it once more with a better camera, with the sound. So I bought a better camera and used the same actors again, and I made Clouds of May like that. And when I did it, I liked the method, and I wanted to do it once more. But with time, you know, you change. You begin to try different things, different territories you want to enter. And now I also like to work with the professionals as well. It's different. It depends on if you write the script very detailed, the dialogues and everything. If you want to actors come to your dialogues, if you want the dialogues more, you need professionals because they can adapt, they can change themselves according to the dialogues. But the amateurs, you have to obey to them. You have to change your dialogues all the time because they cannot fit themselves to the written dialogue.
Well, I guess that's a question. Do you feel that in a way, you know, you've embarked on kind of a new chapter in your career with the last two films, with Three Monkeys and Anatolia, because they have had these more detailed scripts and more professional actors, and you've been co-writing with your wife and another co-screenwriter. Did Uzak feel to you, or distant, like that was sort of the end of one thing and now you wanted to go in a different direction?
Actually, in every film, you feel the end of something and you are starting a new thing. But as you look at from the outside, many people write that like that after the Three Monkeys. You feel more change, maybe. Maybe it's true because first time, up to that time, in order to feel safer, I made autobiographical movies because you know the details very well and you feel that the details could be a certain, how do you say, authenticity. But when I begin to feel confident after Uzak, I wanted to try myself in different territories. So I left autobiography more, and you know, you want to try things, and you need challenge to go on. Always, you need new challenges. So the last film, I think, was also a challenge for me. More actors, many actors around, and the crew was big, and the darkness, and many things.
I want to ask you about one of the non-professional actors who's a very big part of your first three features, your cousin Mehmet Emir Toprak, who died very tragically shortly before Distant was shown in Cannes. Can you talk about working with him and did that also affect, in a way, the kinds of films you would make after Distant, knowing that you wouldn't have him as a muse, as a character?
Probably that's also another reason. After Uzak, when we learned that the film is selected to competition to Cannes, I phoned him that we are selected to come and we want to come and things like that. He was very happy, and he was at that time in a small festival in the Anatolia when I found him. And because he learned this news, he got his cars that night, and all night he traveled to town to go back. And that night he made the mistake. And it was, of course, very tragic for me. And after his death, I didn't want to go to the town. I used to plan to make one more movie in that region, actually, but after that I didn't want to go to the place back, and I felt a kind of guilty conscience, and also his parents and relatives, I think they didn't want also this kind of activities anymore after his death. So that's probably maybe another reason that I want to make something else anymore. Actually, it was not so complicated because this was a film about the motivations which is hard to express. And I don't want to express these motivations to an actor. I thought I could use my senses and try to express the unexpressible in a way. And that was this kind of trial for me, so a kind of challenge again. And I believed, in a way, that there are some important or some thoughts of some kind of feelings that is not that that is. I feel that they are dominant, but I felt that I don't see these in the cinemas, in the films, in a way. So that was this kind of challenge, and I wanted to make a very static movie, but I wanted to express this unexpressible and things in a way. But of course, I don't know anything about the result, but that was my intention.
It was also your first film shot in high definition video, and I remember just sitting in Cannes and seeing this large image on the screen of you and your wife on the beach, and you could see the individual beads of sweat on the bodies. That's how sharp the image was. And you've continued to use digital video since then.
Actually, there is not much difference between film and digital anymore, because when you shoot film, after one stage, you digitize it. So they come together at the same place. So if you want to make some effects, you do the same thing on the film again. And the digital technology also changed and developed, and the more important thing is the depth of field that influenced the aesthetics and the style of the film. And now the digital has more diversity. You can use different chip size cameras, which has different kind of depth of field variations. So I think in that way, in that sense, digital gives you more tools to express your story, to tell your story. So there is no need to go back to film. But in those days, the film was better because the chip sizes was small in the digital cameras. But now there is a diversity of chip sizes. So the depth, you can try different things on different part of the movies. Also, you can do this. For one scene, you use different camera. For another scene, you can use another different camera just for the depth, not about the, I'm not talking about the colors. There is no sense to go back to film in that sense, because you can change the colors, you can even give the feeling of film if you like the digital. But more important thing for me also, you can try different things. Film is expensive. That makes a stress on the actors as well. When they make a mistake, you are more angry to them. But that makes them more nervous. So it influences their acting, you know. They don't feel comfortable with the film. Of course, for Hollywood that's not important, but for us, that budget is important, you know. So you can have a heart attack when you shoot film, especially if you are a director who shoots long shots. If you shoot a 3 minutes shot until 2.5 minutes, everything is alright, but suddenly they make a mistake. What shall you do? You know, you have to shoot it again. So that's really creates a nervous atmosphere.
You know, what draws you to these kind of extended moments in cinema?
Of course, our life is going faster and faster, and I think in this fastness we miss many things. I think that's the tempo of my soul is like that. That's all. That I can sense the world in this tempo. So I don't. It's not an rational or analytical decision. It's completely my senses. You know, it's that's what how I decide that. And I don't realize that it's slow, but other people say so, and I'm surprised. For me, the films should have that speed, but it may be slow for some people because, of course, it's a matter of habits, you know. So, but the life is so slow, actually. Life is much slower than my films, definitely. And I don't know. We realize something else in the slowness, and to bore the audience is not so important for me, because boredom is important for me. I like to be bored sometimes, because statistically, when I look back, the films that I like most is the films that I am bored most in the first viewing. But with time, I begin to like it more. But in the first, sometimes I leave the cinema in the middle. What is this movie? But later it begins to work in my mind and in my soul. And I come across with the same film another day, another year, and it influenced me incredibly. And my best movies has such a story in my life.
What are some of those films?
I prefer it to be a secret, but, but it's because I'm a bit ashamed, because
We won't tell anyone.
most of the good films, really, I have such a story.
Are you a fan? Do you yourself see connections between what you're doing and what he's doing?
Yes, I like him. I also, I know Iran very well. I went there about 3 times, in several times. And Iran actually looks like, the quality of people, quite similar to Turkey, but older times of Turkey, I must say, because Turkey is a bit changed now. Because there is no tourist there, it's more isolated place, the people are really untouched. And the quality of people is best in Iran. Because I traveled all the world, you know. But the people of Iran is incredible. But I remember these people in Turkey also when I was in the old times. You ask an address in Iran, in Tehran, in a big city, to somebody, they turn a taxi, pay the money, and they send you. Or you go to a restaurant in the big city in Tehran, they don't take money from you because you are a visitor. So the human values are really very beautiful in Iran. It's not just Romania, you know. I think there are very similarities with Iran culture and Turkish culture, and I think Kiarostami likes these kind of characteristics of human very much. He is very interested with that, and he tried to make them seem more, you know. He doesn't make political movies in a way. I think as a person, I'm not so different. I also, I mean, when I look at the countryside, I don't see only the poverty or something. You know. I see what I lose, what I lost in years in the city. I see other human values and many things. So that sometimes makes out similar results.
Well, that seems like a natural way to talk just a very little bit about Once Upon a Time in Anatolia, because people haven't seen it yet. But what you said about the way that Turkey used to be, and also your own longing for what you left behind in the country when you moved to Istanbul, this feels very strong to me in this film, and it's even there at the title in a way, Once Upon a Time, and you feel very much in the movie, even though the movie has a story, it's a kind of detective story, that all of the characters have a certain kind of sense of loss and a longing for a past that doesn't exist anymore. Is that one way into the film? Is that a starting point? Are those some of the feelings that you were grappling with when you came up with this story?
I don't know. What take me into this story, I'm not sure, but of course we started from a real story. One of the scriptwriters, my close friend, a doctor, in Turkey the doctors has to make an obligatory social service in the Anatolia. So during his social service, this guy lived such a story, the base of the story, and he told me this one in one dinner or lunch. And I liked it very much, but I didn't want to make a film out of it. But after 6 months or 1 year, somehow we decided to work on this. But it's just the base of the story. We had to write the story all the way again. But what interests me is how to tell in English, I don't know, but it has a certain kind of potential which you can tell out of this, through this story, the uncommon or surprising sides of human nature. I felt this potential in a way in this story because there is a corpse and things like that. Out of it, you can investigate your characters in the sometimes unnatural, not unnatural, an interesting position. You may not see this in the normal life, you know, but this through this story you can see some surprising sides of the human nature. I don't want to say more because English is difficult.
A lot of the movie takes place at night. I think it's some of the most striking nighttime photography that we've ever seen in a movie, because it really does look completely dark, and yet you can still make out what's going on. How did you achieve that, and what were the challenges of achieving that?
Actually, when you write the script, sometimes you don't know. I'm not the kind of person who calculates what will happen in this. But when we go to shooting, we found that it was extremely difficult to shoot such a movie, because half of the film is in the nighttime, and but in the nighttime there is no light. In the city, if you are in the city, it's easy, you know, you can illuminate it easily. But it's in the middle of the desert, of the steppe, and it was really a challenge to light the film. But you know, if there is a challenge, then you can be sometimes more creative. So we used very few elements in our hand. We tried to use them more creatively. So the choreography of the spotlights and things like that was exciting to play with them. It was a real challenge, and really I liked that. Finally, I like challenges.
I want to take some questions from the audience for Nuri Bilge Ceylan over there. Yes. Oh, actually, I believe there's a microphone that's going to come around, so just bear with us 1 second.
What camera did you use to shoot Once Upon a Time in Anatolia?
Sony F35.
So it is shot in HD.
Yeah. Well, it was a really big problem actually, because we couldn't find the LUT. You understand? LUT or LUT? What do you call it? It's logarithmic, so you have to convert it to something else, and we couldn't find it. It was a real problem in Turkey. Maybe here it's okay.
At the beginning of your film, I felt like I was entering an Edward Hopper painting in Anatolia. And then the more it went on, I felt like you are putting the whole world, you're trying to put the whole world in 3 cars. Could you, was that an idea? How much of human nature can you, how many different variations can you put in 3 cars, which is wonderful. I absolutely love it. And one more question, what's your favorite Clark Gable movie?
That's an inside reference for people who've seen the movie.
Your favorite Clark Gable movie? You will all understand after seeing it.
It was several questions. One is, the last one is, what are your favorite Clark Gable movies?
Probably Misfits. I like this movie. Actually, maybe I haven't watched any other Clark Gable movie. But fortunately, I like this movie. But that is, it's not because I like Clark Gable. That's why it was not in the script. Of course, the people didn't watch the movie, but the idea came to my mind when I shoot the movie.
The other question was about whether it was a conscious idea that to put as many different perspectives on human nature as you can fit into 3 cars.
Of course, we tried all the persons different. So in order to, how do you say, the whole life, in order to put, to be able to put whole life in the movie. But the number of people is, we decided this number from the reality. We investigated, of course, how many persons should go there and things like that. And the real story was the same number of persons.
Sure. Well, there.
I would like some advice from you as a young filmmaker, trying to be a filmmaker. Sometimes it is very difficult. I feel like impossible, not going to happen. It is, as you know, I mean, you're a genius, so maybe it's not hard for you. Maybe it's not even as hard for you, but what is your advice when you feel at the very bottom? What makes you hold on to that passion back again?
I went on because I couldn't find anything else to do. Because nothing seemed to me worth making. So I catch it like I catch a snake, you know. So nothing else. Of course, most of the time I felt hopeless and I wanted to leave, but when I do something else, I felt that it's not for me. To make my first movie, it was about 7-8 years. I didn't do anything but trying to make movies. So I spent at least 7 years. So you are so young, and I started my first short movie at 36 years old. So you have time. But of course, starting in a young age is best, better, much better, because you are more brave at least, and you have more energy, of course.
Right there.
Hi. I'm also one of the people who have seen the film already in the press screenings, and my question is, when I watched it, it seemed to be there are many references, or at least affinities, with the films of Tarkovsky, both visually and thematically. Am I correct or not? Is Tarkovsky an important influence on you?
Of course, like Kurosawa, I like Tarkovsky also, but I have many. Of course, I like many more directors, many also writers and things like that. Of course, everybody has an influence on me. Everybody I like. But the biggest influence, I believe, is from Chekhov. And at the end of the film, of course, we wrote some quotations. In all my films, probably, Chekhov is the main influence, and Dostoevsky, but literature. But the others, it's not a conscious process, you know. And other people should talk about this. And I don't know anything about that. You just tell your story, but you are not yourself, you know. You are the sum of everything that influences you, that you hate also, everything. It's a complicated process, of course. I cannot talk about this, but you can talk, of course. You have the right to talk about this.
Can you say something more about Chekhov, though, and what particularly about Chekhov, or the things about Chekhov that inspired him?
Chekhov is such a crazy man. He deals with every kind of situation in life. And he definitely has a story, whatever you want to do. So it comes to your mind, you know, when you if Chekhov has a similar situation in one of them, I check that story, and if I can take something from that, I take it. Filmmaking at the end, of course, kind of collage. First, you bring together many things, thousands of ideas, small ideas, details. The problem is making this collage in a certain harmony, or not in an eclectic way. In this, I mean, it's writing a script or making a film is like a river. It from drops different places comes together. Yeah.
We have time for a few more. Over here, and then we'll come over here.
Hello. Sorry, I had a quick question about rating the actors part, because you have a very strong photography background, and I was wondering how you struggled, or if you had any struggle when you had a transition between, directing family and relatives, or people that, you are close to more professional actors with like familiar faces or anything like that. And also in the behind the scenes, I noticed that you give notes during the takes to actors sometimes. Like in Three Monkeys, I noticed that sometimes you give notes to the actors when they're walking and like orchestrate the actions. So I was wondering how this process happened, and if you had any conflicts or problems of.
Giving notes, what do you mean?
Like talking to them and like maybe
Of course, you have to talk with
during
them.
the take.
During the take?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I always talk during the take, and at the end, in the editing, I have to clear all my sounds. But it's easy to clean my sounds, it's no problem. But the directing actors is one of the most complicated things. There is not really one method for that. You suddenly realize this, because every person, every actor is so different, so different. So one method doesn't work for everybody. It's impossible. So you have to devise a new method for each actor, really. And so I try all kinds of methods for them. I try everything. I deceive them, sometimes I lie them, I sometimes shoot them secretly. I lie them, everything you can do. Because you are never sure which one really works. You shoot the script first, okay, but what if it doesn't work in the editing? You are dependent on what you shoot in the editing. You are not like a writer, you can't change a word. So if you are not sure enough, and you better not sure at all, so you shoot different things. Sometimes just the opposite of what you shoot first. Also, you have to have really something, different energies and different levels. If an actor doesn't work, so I generally don't talk to the actor. I will talk to the other actor for him. I change him, and then try to affect him. I say change your word, but without saying the other one, and things like that. You try everything.
Yeah, all the way over here. Just wait for the microphone.
Will you say something about the Turkish film industry? Are there any problems with censorship from the government? When I was in Turkey 2-3 years ago, I sort of felt that the country was moving to the right, and there was more influence of the religious right for here. Okay, did you have any problems like in making movies? Could you make an anti-Muslim movie? Something like that. Would it be possible to make a movie that shows Muslims in a poor light in your country?
I think you can do. Yeah, the censorship is not strong at all, I think. It used to be in 60s, 70s maybe, but not anymore. I think all kinds of movies are made in Turkey, and I believe the censorship also is not a really big problem itself. It sometimes forces you to be more creative. Look at the Iranian cinema. After the revolution, it's better.
Let's take one question here in the front.
You had mentioned that you were strongly influenced by Roman Polanski's autobiography. Could you just speak a little bit more about like, what books or authors had a big influence on you as a filmmaker?
It's mostly the Russian literature, actually. As I said before, Chekhov and Dostoevsky firstly. Of course, also some Turkish writers, like Said Faik and others, of course. I'm not the kind of person who reads a wide variety of authors, but I insist on the same. And more, mostly I prefer to read one novel once again instead of trying a new one. I don't say it's a correct one, but it's a reflex.
Unfortunately, we have to stop there and give everyone time to get down to the